Good morning, Jocelyn.
Good morning, everyone. Let me see here. All right. Okay, just making sure got everything going. Okay, hi. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Let me open up the chat here. Hello, Ohio. Welcome, 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 everyone. All right, let me pop up just to start us off. And I have a really cool plant haul to show you. Let me see here. All right. So we're doing construction on our building. So if you hear anything in the background, that's what's happening. It's been going on now for a bit, and they're continuing this morning. So let's see here. Oh, whoops, I'm the wrong. Uh-oh, where'd it go? 1 second.
I have so many acorns falling here on my cabin that you're
Oh,
liable.
really?
Oh my goodness, the ground is covered.
It's that season again. It's coming.
Yes, it is.
I'm preparing myself because we're the supers for the building, and when those leaves start falling, that's when our workout with the rake starts. Let's see here. Okay. So, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Urban Garden Learning Series. This is our houseplant class. And our series include everything from classes to Q&As, like today, a plant clinic, where you can feel free to, of course, ask any questions you may have, but also if you have any plants with any issues that you'd like to show on camera, we can totally try to figure out, right? And it's cool because everyone can get in on the process. If anyone has had a similar issue, they can also share their tips and tricks. So definitely feel free to grab any plants that might be a little stressed at the moment. And we also have open forums. And so next week will be our open forum, and anything goes. Questions can be asked if folks want to share their collections, talk about their plant journey, anything they would like. Please feel free to reach out if you'd like a certain amount of time. We can definitely set that up. So let me know. Not a problem. So today is a plant clinic, and again, next week will be a open forum. And if you would like to give a tip, this is a free class and will remain a free class. If you ever would like to offer anything, of course, it'd be much appreciated, but not necessary in the slightest, so don't worry. And if you do want to get in contact with me, info@urbangarden.eco. The website is also urbangarden.eco, as is the Instagram, if that is the preferred method of reaching out. If you have any questions about the class or anything like that, you'd like to set up a session, a consult, let me know. We'll take care of that. No worries. Now, I would actually really like to show you real quick a couple plants that my husband and I picked up over the weekend. So we decided it's been really stressful these last few weeks, and with the trip especially. And so we were like, all right, let's kind of treat ourselves this weekend. And so we went to our favorite hot spots here in New York City, and we found, wow, we probably picked up, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, maybe about 24 plants. We went a little nuts, but and I had 2 orders that came in. I hadn't gotten plant mail for a while. I decided, because it was really hot here. We've been having a lot of heat waves, and I didn't want to risk the plant arriving crispy. And so the temperature has been kind of mellowing out. So I decided to risk it with 2 plants specifically. And they ended up arriving on Friday. So that was perfect timing. But I finally got a cutting of a Geogynanthus. And it's so beautiful. It's thick like a peperomia. These are so hard to find, and I was really happy that I was able to finally get one. And I found so it's called a coral brush. So this is a Jatropha multifida, and I'm in love. I'm in love with these leaves. It has some new leaves coming in. Really beautiful. It's a caudex plant, and so I actually have a Jatropha caudalis or caudicalis. This is one that I had. It's just starting. You can barely see the very tip. It's starting to get leaves again. They're just starting to come in, but I had gotten this shipped from Ecuador, and this is a Jatropha as well. So same, they're cousins. And when it arrived, the leaves, which were absolutely beautiful, were completely molded. They did not like the shipping. I think it was shipped just very moist. But the stem, the caudex, was still perfect. So what I really appreciated is this was from Aqua Genera, and so they've been starting to do a lot of pop-ups here in the United States, and they actually gave me a refund, gave me a credit so that I can buy another plant, and then told me I could still take it. Even though it had no leaves, they said still take it and see if you can bring it back. So I really appreciate their refund policy, because they were like, take it if you still want it, we'll give you the money back for it. But if you still want to try and rehab it, by all means, you can do so. And so finally, after all this time, it's starting to get a little leaf on top. You can barely see it in the camera. Barely. It's like a little dot, and it looks like a little hand, because they have very similar leaves to this. It's kind of that palmate, kind of maple leaf looking shape, almost like a fig leaf too. They look very similar. So I'm excited to plant these up today, and and see how they go. And the coral brushes, they can get very, very tall. So let's see. Also, a really cool find, and this was a find at my local Home Depot. So we stopped by real quick, and I restrained myself as best I could. But I had to, because I at that point we had already done the majority of our plant shopping. But I saw this and I was like, okay, I need to grab it. So this is from Home Depot. So they're starting to carry, sometimes you find some gems in there, but they are starting to carry some more odd species, much to my delight. And so this one was only $6.98. And this is part of their low light collection. They're kind of promoting this like low light. These guys will appreciate a grow light. You don't have to keep them in low light. But this is a Sansevieria. So this is a snake plant, which they did get reclassified under Dracaena, but they still are commonly known as Sansevieria. And this is the Sansevieria samurai. So this is incredibly pointy. These are not very soft leaves in the slightest. It's very, very succulent, very, very pointy. And I had yet to find one of these. I always see pictures of them, but I collect Sansevieria. I have so many different species and varieties, and I did not have a samurai yet. So when I spotted this and it was all by itself, I had to make sure that I grabbed one. Now the mix they have it in is a very brown mix. There's a lot of, you could see a lot of coco coir, but the roots so far are okay. So I might let this guy acclimate for a few weeks and then kind of switch up this mix into something that's going to offer a little bit more aeration. But yeah, I just don't want to lose it to rot, because that type of mix will more than likely hold on to moisture a little bit longer than I'd like to. So found that. Then I went to my local shop here called City Succulents, and they were carrying this vanilla orchid hybrid, and which I was freaking out about, because my vanilla cutting I bought for $20, and it was one cutting, which is in my greenhouse. It's like this thing is taking forever. And this person was selling this whole plant, a rooted plant with several nodes. So we could see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the base. So about at least 7 nodes, because I don't know what's underneath, right? The mix for $20. And so I of course lost my mind when I saw this, and I'd never seen this specific breed, this specific hybrid before. So it's a vanilla tahitensis, so I guess Tahiti. Yeah. Oh yeah. Does someone have a question?
I have a question too.
Yes. Oh,
I'm very interested in that. That's now, will it eventually bloom like an orchid, or is it a hybrid and it won't do that?
oh no, it will definitely bloom. The thing with vanilla orchids specifically is that these will actually, they have to be, I'm trying to remember how long they're supposed to be. I think they're supposed to be 4 to 5 feet or something like that before they will start to produce flowers. And then if you want to have them actually give you vanilla beans, you have to pollinate by hand with a paintbrush. So I mean, it'll be a very long time, but I can try. I can try. I definitely, and this wasn't the only vanilla that I found. So this was at City Succulents, and then I went over to another shop that I absolutely love called Planted by Christie's, and they had this one plant just sitting there. And I asked them, I said, "Is that what I think it is?" And they were like, "Yes, that is." And I said, "How long have you had this?" And they said, "Well, we got one and nobody bought it, and it's just been sitting there." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm buying it." And they said, "Well, it was obviously waiting for you then, because nobody else bought it." This is a variegated vanilla orchid, and this guy was for $30. Well worth it though. A variegated vanilla orchid. So 2 vanillas in one day. I lost it. But here you could just see the kind of the shape, a slight shape difference in the leaves. This one has slightly narrower leaves there, but this is the variegated vanilla that I have been searching for. Cuttings are always really hard to get of these, and when I do find a seller, yeah, it's really expensive to get these cuttings. So of course, to my delight, as I said, I ended up finding 2 in one day, 2 to completely different shops. So I hope this is a new trend, because these are not usually, I've never seen them in shops. I always find them through private sellers where I would get cuttings from. So now that I'm starting to see them in just regular plant shops, I'm really, really hoping that yeah, that this becomes a new trend and we get many more varieties of vanilla, because these are relatively easy orchids to take care of. And while this won't flower for a very, very long time until it gets to a substantial height. Uh, the foliage is still something really beautiful to look at. It's still, it's very impressive, even just on its own. The foliage is so beautiful, and I love they have like a zigzag type of structure on their stems. But yeah, and they're climbers, so you can actually see the little.
Oh, yeah, the little node.
Yeah. So I'll I'll wait for it to get a little bit taller, and then I'll put it onto something with maybe like a piece of cork, or a cocoa coir type of pole, something like that to see, because oh my gosh, if I can get vanilla beans, I will I will lose my mind. But yeah, no, they're relatively easy to take care of. So I'm really, really hoping, and those were the only ones. So I'm hoping that the stores start carrying more of them. But yeah, so it'll take a while. It'll take a while for them to flower. But if you do find them, and they really take off in your home, because they can grow relatively quickly when they're in the pretty good conditions. So so hopefully. Let me see, and I'll quickly show. Well, I'll quickly just show this. Hold on one second. I put them all on a tray because I have them put aside on this rolling table so I can keep them away from my bigger collection. So I found a string of watermelons right here. This is the string of watermelons. Then I found, I collect Cuban oregano, and I found this variegated variety, and oh, it smells so good. So I have like the lime one, and I have the dark green ones. So found that. Then I found this giant ripsalis. It's the Drunken Bones ripsalis. This is a epiphytic cactus. Then I found a Ludisia discolor, but it is huge compared to the one I have. I have one, it's just one little stick, and this is a whole grouping. And then they had the variety that only has one stripe. So I had to grab that. Then I found for only $12 this Huernia. This whole thing for $12, when I currently have a cutting of this exact same plant, and I bought one of these little legs for $10. So when I saw the whole plant for $12, I was like, no, come on. So I couldn't leave without it. And then this is a philodendron goldii. And look at those leaves. This is all one leaf. And it's just split in a very odd way. Let me see if I can pull it out and show from a different angle. Just so you guys can see these leaves. So these on the bottom is an example of an immature leaf. So it looks like that. As they start maturing, it starts to get like that. But then this is an example of a mature leaf. So it's kind of a semicircle, like that.
It's palmate.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So absolutely beautiful. Very different type of philodendron than you usually see. And these get very, very large. And so these, so they're still going by philodendron goldii in the plant trade, but they have been reclassified. So now they are the Thaumatophyllum sprucianum, I believe is the new scientific name. So they have been reclassified, but yeah, you will still see them with those old names. It always happens. So by the time Yeah, you'll see a lot of plants are still being called names that have been reclassified like a decade ago. So it helps to know the old name though, because then maybe your local plant shop might know that old name versus the new one. Hence the whole issue with these guys where folks are still calling them sansevierias even though they've been reclassified as Dracaena. So snake plants are now Dracaena. They're no longer um,
Shana.
they're no longer sansevierias. So
Okay.
it's super cool. I really love finding these odd things. And then the last ones I'll show you is so I have a cutting of a leaf that I got from a private seller out in the Bronx for $25 for one leaf. And then I walk into this shop and they had a whole plant already rooted with vines. This is the Hoya Sumatra caudata. And it's really, so this is such an interest. This is why it was on my wish list for so long, and I have that cutting because they're covered in fur, so it's very fuzzy, but the leaf itself is incredibly hard. And it has this really interesting ridge line. It kind of looks like a piece of flint, it looks like it's made out of stone, but it's covered in fuzz. Absolutely beautiful. And now they're becoming more popular, so they're becoming much more accessible. So I love seeing that. So plants that, for instance, I used to only like, I remember back when I bought my first Monstera Peru. It was like in 2015, 2016, and I ordered it internationally, and it cost me about $25 just for the leaf. I only got one leaf with one node, and the shipping was like another $15. And then now I'm seeing folks are selling baskets of Monstera Peru in stores for like $20, $30. And I had paid for one leaf years ago. So it's really nice to see when plants that we've been really searching for start to become popular, because then they're much more accessible. So you just gotta wait sometimes. And then this begonia. So this is a begonia, the Dregii or Dregii. I'm not sure how to pronounce the specific epithet. So it's flowering, and it has these little leaves that look like little maple leaves. I had gotten a cutting of this. It was this tiny a few years ago, but it did not like shipping. I got it from a private seller. Did very poorly. And I just found this entire huge one already in flower. Needs a little bit of a trim. It has some damage, but $10. So I had to get it, and it really is tree-like. So I love it, and my husband's very obsessed with bonsai. So this is a really cool variety that kind of has that bonsai look. And then the last plant that I'm not counting all of his plants because he bought a whole bunch of plants. These are the ones that I got. I'd never seen this one before, and from far away, I thought this was a Peperomia ruby cascade, which would have the ruby undersides. But as soon as I got close, I saw it didn't. And I wasn't sure what this is, and I was like, is it some type of Pelia? What is this thing? And it's all very fuzzy, beautiful leaves. And it turns out it's a Cotinanthe Devosiana. I had never seen this before, but they wanted $7 for it. And when I get curious about a plant, I decided, sure, I'm gonna grab this. And this was from Fantastic Gardens in Union Square in Manhattan. For those of you who are in New York City, Fantastic Gardens is now doing pre-sales where you can order online and then go pick up at the farmer's market, which is wonderful. But this was in person that I spotted this guy, and I was doing research about it over the weekend, and it turns out this is an epiphytic vine that is part of the African violet family. And I had no idea that there were any epiphytic members of that family, or at least I can't recall at the moment. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And yeah, it's an experiment. Let's see how it does. It has a bunch of new growth coming in, so we'll figure this one out. But yeah, I wanted definitely to show you this one because I'd never seen it. If anybody here has ever had one, definitely let me know how did you take care of it. From what I've seen online, it does have some flowers that are going to start, so I'm really excited to see that. But that it's very much like an African violet, very similar light situation, soil mix, except they're just slightly thirstier than the African violet. So while African violets would prefer to dry out between waterings, these want to kind of dry out at least like halfway before you water again. So yeah, so I'll be experimenting. We'll see how this goes. But I definitely wanted to show everyone some cool plants. All right. So let me.
Jocelyn, I have a question.
Of course.
I can't get this thing off, but what my concern is, I have a plant and I want you to look at it and tell me what.
Yeah, of course.
It's right here. It's big. It's right here on my porch. Oh, would you like to look at it now?
Sure. Yeah.
And I've not trimmed it for a while because I wanted you to have a look at it.
Ooh, okay. Looks like a Dracaena.
I think it's some form of that. I bought it at Lowe's for about $5 when it was about the size of that begonia you were showing. And that was 2 years ago.
Wow.
And it has grown like crazy. But can you see what's happening to it?
Yes, I can see that those old leaves are dying off right there.
And it's I've got philodendron all around it down here.
Yeah.
To cover up the bottom because it grows way.
Exactly.
Does that hurt anything?
You mean like having that companion planting? No, that should be fine.
I don't know why these.
The bottom leaves.
I've been cutting them off.
Yeah.
Just cut them off and not worry.
I would say to cut them off. With Dracaenas, a lot of them will have kind of like a bare stem, and then all the foliage really stays on top. I mean, but with that, the browning air could possibly be. How often are you watering it?
Only when it's dry.
Okay, good. Yeah.
But it feels pretty moist right now. Now this one has not been outside. We've had a lot of rain.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have moved a lot of my houseplants. I move out in the summertime. I'm in Virginia, so I move them out in the summertime and they do well. But we've had a lot of rain, but the ones that are outside look fine. But this one has not had all that rain on it, but it's still pretty moist. And it obviously, I don't know, it's leaning so much, but the top part looks very healthy.
Yeah, I would say for now, try to trim as close as you can to the stalk.
Okay.
And clean it up a little bit so that you can kind of see the stem situation a little bit better.
Okay.
So at this point, if you're only watering it when it's dry, so maybe it's not, I mean, the new growth looks great. The way that it's standing, the overall shape, it's standing and cascading down. That's very typical of Dracaena, so I wouldn't worry about that. That looks like healthy growth. So it could be just old leaves, could just be that. It could be that during that section of growth, did you recently have it anywhere where maybe it was getting more drafts than usual or anything, any changes?
Getting more what?
Like a draft?
Well, it's here on the porch, but
Yeah.
there is, it doesn't get so much because
Yeah.
no, but it gets some. It gets some of the when we have a wind,
Mm-hmm.
that, but it's not in the openness so much,
Yeah.
in the corner where it doesn't get all of that. You think that's harmful to it?
Not necessarily. They're just they are very Dracaenas tend, well, I should say just more so of the like the mass canes, these that they call like the corn plant. They're a little bit more sensitive to drafts. But I mean, looking at that, I really think you could just clean it up. It could just be old growth
Well,
kind of being let go.
I've done that a number of times on the bottom, but when I saw that it was so many of these were here,
Yeah.
I left them until I could get with you.
Yeah. I mean, I would say to clip them back. Make sure if you are using scissors to spray rubbing alcohol on them, just in case it's some type of pathogen, anything like that. You don't want to infect other plants with it. But yeah, cut it back as close to the stem as you can. Sometimes they will peel off. They're meant to kind of come off.
Yes.
But if you don't want, if they're still pretty fastened to the plant and you don't want to cause damage, then you should just cut as close to the stem as you can. And yeah, and see if it starts continuing with the new growth. It looks kind of like it just stopped in both of them, both the stalks. It kind of stopped at the same time, the same place. So it's making me think that this might just be like old leaves, because of all the new growth, maybe just that, acclimation, being on the porch. So, because the new growth looks great. If the new growth looked kind of weird and kind of like sad in that way, sometimes then, okay, there might be something wrong with the overall plant. There might be some type of pest or something like that. But being that the new growth is so vibrant and looks so great, it could just be that an issue that just older leaves having to deal with acclimation and then the plant just dropping the older leaves. In regards to the leaning, what you could do if you wanted to is they're very cheap because it's about 12 of them for $6 usually in Home Depot. They're the bamboo stakes. So if you wanted to try something like that where you kind of stake it up, you can try that if you wanted to. And another easier way without having to buy anything is just rotating it.
Well, and we have been doing that, but
okay,
I think not enough.
Okay.
Obviously. And it will, within another month or two, it will go inside. I'll put it back in the house.
Yeah. I mean the plant, I think, is that a philodendron or is that a pothos? But the vine, it looks beautiful.
This part?
Yeah, it looks absolutely beautiful. So it looks like that one's very, very healthy. Yeah, really.
I think it's part of the philodendron. I have so many I keep rooting them.
Yes.
So I have them in pots all over the, teapots and.
Oh yeah.
And then I plant them someplace.
No, that's great. But yeah, they have very similar needs in regards to substrate and watering. They're actually in the same family. So I would say to definitely cut back all of those dead leaves, and it just kind of gives you also a better look. So if you start to notice anything that's on the stem, notice if that's spreading, but it could just be, it could just be that.
Well, I'll cut them back, get it all cleaned up and see what it does. But you think this is not philodendron, it's pothos?
I think that is pothos, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, just the shape of the leaves and the way that the leaves connect to the stems connect, the petioles connect to the stems. It looks very much like the pothos. I mean, they're in the same family. It's just the yeah.
So I've got lots of whatever it is then. Well,
No, of course, yeah, and it looks beautiful. Oh, and Linda is saying that regarding the large Dracaena, um, so she's asking, could you cut back to stimulate new growth lower down and then also root those cuttings? I mean, that's an option, but then that would take away, if you wanted to, kind of cut that top off, restart that. No, you're like, I've waited too much for it to get this tall. Yeah, I totally I feel you. So no,
do that.
but you can. But Linda, to answer your question, that is very much a possibility. That is a way to go here. So if, let's say, Nancy wanted to remove all those dead leaves and then you have that clean stalk, technically you can go ahead and chop that, and then you can root that, have a new plant, and then wait for some new growth to be stimulated from what was left behind. You can, Linda, you can totally do that. So that is a possibility. But in this case, Nancy seems to prefer not to.
Just take this. I've done that in the past with Scheffleras.
Ah,
I had a Schefflera for about 50 years. And it finally, I couldn't bring it back in the house. Couldn't get rid of all the scale. You know, they're really, I guess, noted for getting that. And
yes.
And it just, I kept treating it, but finally I had to give up. But it felt like part of the family. I was really devastated to have to let it go.
No, of course. Yeah, plants really do become part of the family. Having plants, oh gosh, I still remember, it still hurts when I think about the pothos that my mom had from when I was a child until I was in college. I was already in college, so the plant, gosh, that had to be about like 20 years old. It was just like a staple in our home, and then it just one day it just started getting yellow leaves, and she couldn't bring it back. And yeah, it's really difficult. And Scheffleras are absolutely gorgeous. For those who might not know what the Schefflera, you might know it as the umbrella tree, or the umbrella plant. Really beautiful, and you can propagate those via cuttings. But gosh, yeah, no, it hurts. They definitely become, they become part of our routine. And anytime if I lose anything, it's yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I hope that was helpful, and definitely give us an update. And let us know.
Get it cleaned up and do something. I'm not at the point that I can do as much as I used to with these plants, and this one sits in the corner in the wintertime, kind of behind a chair, so this won't show.
Oh, that works. So that's fine. So yeah, definitely let us know how it's doing.
I will do so.
Thank you. Let me see. Linda says, yes, I have so many adopted plants from friends and relatives, a living legacy to remember folks by. They're very special to us. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of them, not only have they been with us for a while, but especially when they've been gifted to us by really important people in our lives. And, you want to keep that, especially when we lose said person, right? That becomes even more paramount to try to take care of that plant and make sure, of course, that you don't lose it. Gosh, yeah, no, I feel you on that. Let's see. Adeline says, you spoke about your oregano. Will they continue to grow indoors? I have a beautiful plant outdoors, which has a variety of colors, which I've never seen before. I hoped it would continue if I transplanted indoors for the cold winter. Yes, so this, they call it Cuban oregano, but it's actually Plectranthus. I believe that's the genus Plectranthus. It's very fuzzy to the touch. And it has that very similar growth style to like a mint. And it's aromatic. It smells very strongly of like oregano or like a sage. And so these I do grow indoors. I have a couple of these in different colors. These grow really well indoors. I've had a few that I have a big one I've had for a couple years. It's just got really, really tall. These are fun. They grow very readily indoors. So if you have this specific type outdoors, it can do very well indoors. You can start them by cuttings as well. In terms of regular oregano, I've kept a regular, like actual oregano indoors, and that one actually, oregano and thyme were the ones that did the best for me indoors. You can grow other types of like mints, like basil is in the mint family, can do well if you have it in a good spot. I did not have any luck with rosemary or lavender indoors. It just wasn't sunny enough. And yeah, but oregano and thyme grow really, really nicely indoors. And this Cuban oregano, as it's called, yeah, this one is very much indoors. But this is not a true oregano. So this is a common name, and this is a Plectranthus. Now, what I found was really interesting is I actually saw one of these when I was in El Salvador, and I said, "Oh, do you guys call this Cuban oregano here too?" And they told me that that no. He gave me the name, but I'm not remembering the name. But he said they actually eat this. And so that this is something that they will take the leaves and dice them up and add them to salads or to anything they're cooking for the flavoring. I wasn't aware of it being edible, but apparently over there, this is commonly eaten. I haven't tried it personally, so maybe I'll experiment. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's safe to eat. I have to double check, but I know that they were eating it apparently. Adeline says mine doesn't look anything like that. It's very tight growing and compact. So yeah, it could be an actual oregano that you might have. This one is that's just the common name. Yeah. And what does it mean when the leaves become spoon shaped, like cupped? That can mean a couple things for plants, if they're not meant to do that, of course. One, sometimes it could be as a result of some type of infestation, like a mite, that can cause deformities of the leaves. Also, sometimes it could be an issue with humidity. Some plants will the leaves will either cup, they'll kind of turn like a taco inward or sometimes outward due to dehydration. That can happen as well. Yeah, there's a couple of reasons why they can become kind of like spoon shaped. George says, I brought home a rosemary Christmas tree from Costco and it died after a couple of weeks indoors. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I love those. I love seeing those. I always see every summer the lavender bonsai trees that they make, and it's like a nice woody stem and it's like a circle and then the lavender flowers. So they do the topiary, right, to shape it in that way. And they look absolutely beautiful, but just, yeah, they don't do. I tried even a couple years ago, about like 4 years ago, I bought the tree basil, and it was also cut. It looked like a little tree. Couldn't do it. It did not like it, not one bit. Some of them they just do. Mints would really prefer them to be outside. They would really prefer to be outside, unless you have like a full setup like a walk-in greenhouse type of situation. They can be very, very difficult to keep alive indoors, unfortunately. And then Holly says, I have the other color. It's of the lime Cuban oregano. I got a cutting from a friend from Cameroon, and she eats that and said it's medicinal. I eat that one too. It grows almost too much. Oh, great. So another experienced consumer of the Cuban oregano. Yeah, I haven't tried it myself. I'm definitely gonna look up some a fun way to prepare them and see, make sure that they're, you know, it's cool for me to to have, but I am gonna try it then, out of sheer curiosity. And yeah, they're amazing. Let's see here. Let me see. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not missing any. Got that. Oh, T. Bailey. I love that both you and your husband are addicts together. Yes. Oh, yes. It's very problematic. It can be very problematic because that's yeah, that's what ends up having us. And Holly, with plant buying, so many I buy go bad and die. With the plant house plants. Yeah, I mean, it's an experiment, right? So you know, we'll pick up plants that we're not familiar with, that we know the gist of it, so we have an idea where it would, you know, fit in the household, where it could work. But then it's an experiment. So we've definitely killed plenty of plants. You know, we don't, all of our plants, you know, aren't absolutely perfect. You know, if once you've been in the house plant hobby for a really long time, pests are always on the horizon. They're, you know, you're never completely safe. Even when you think you are, you're not. And you know, and sometimes, you know, when you have a new plant that you're working with, you've never worked with it before, you might kill it. I've definitely killed a couple plants before I figure out the best situation, and then, you know, on my third try, I finally have that plant is doing great. But it took me taking care of it one way and going, oh, that was not the best way, and trying again. So I mean, if you're really just experimenting, a lot of these plants were very cheap. You know, I don't. While we do collect, we do get collectors plants that are a little pricey. For the most part, a lot of our plants are relatively cheap, and then, you know, it allows us to kind of play and experiment and really just enjoy it, just enjoy the hobby, get to know these plants. You know, things, you know, like this was what, $6.98. A lot of these little ones that I picked up at these shops were like 7, 10, 12. Yeah, so if you want to experiment more, if you want to grow your collection, try with the cheaper plants, and see how they do. And once you like, okay, I figured it out, this one's really happy, and then you can upgrade to the more expensive ones if that's what you wanted to do. Let me see here. Kristen asks, I have a moss cane plant that I just transplanted, and the leaves are much more wavy. They're ruffled than they were. Does that mean it needs more water or less? I've had it for about 3 years. It is sturdy, but I'm worried now. Oof. Okay. A moss cane. So is this like the Dracaena moss cane? If they're much more wavy after the transplant, there could be a couple things. So during the transplantation process, plants can go into shock. That can happen. Their roots have been exposed. Anytime you do any work with a plant's roots and you're removing any soil and you're kind of remixing, you're putting it into a brand new mix, then there's always going to be damage to the root hairs. So this is going to lower the ability of the roots to do their job, basically to effectively take up water. So it's going to happen no matter what. Now, this could go either way. So in some cases, the plant goes into shock just in general, right? It just goes into shock. It's a brand new mix, new space. It's a lot for the plant to take, and it takes a couple days for it to recover. Some plants can't recover. But with the waviness of the leaves, it could be as a result of that slight dehydration, so that kind of drop in effectiveness of taking up water. So that could just be a little bit as a result, it's just showing that way. In terms of trying to, let me see, how long ago was it that you repotted it? And question, did you water it right after repotting, or did you wait before watering?
Yeah, I'll just unmute myself. Thanks for the help.
Yeah, of course.
I transplanted it. It had like kind of vines in the pot originally. I got it from Home Depot. And then when I transplanted it, there was a lot of white looking like kind of, I don't know what it was, inside mold maybe. So then I transplanted it and I added different soil, tried to get rid of all that white stuff. And then I watered it right away.
Okay.
But it's really wavy and I don't know what that means.
Okay. So you watered it right away. Hey, Mozart, come here. Come here. Leave that alone. Watered it right away, had some potential mold. And the leaves, it has the texture, other than the waviness, has the texture of the leaves changed? Are they like thinner? Or do they kind of feel this?
Yeah, they do look a little thinner. I would bring my, show you a picture, but I have to
Sure.
move my laptop all the way over.
If it's not
let me see if
convenient,
I
don't
can
worry.
try. Hold on, let me see if I can try. 1 second.
Moshi, come here.
Okay, I'm here now. I appreciate your help. Okay, it's right here. So, you see how the leaves are kind of like,
Oh, hold on, trying to add the spotlight. There we go.
oh, why is it all blurry like that? Oh, 1 second.
I think it's like
I
the
think-
background filter thing. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
there we
Here we
go.
go. This
There
is
we
like, they just look a lot like creepier than they used to be. And this one's like turning yellow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe it's in the soil. It's just not gonna come. I don't know.
And with the soil mix, what kind of mix did you use, like a nice amount of perlite?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of perlite in there.
Good, good, good.
But when I watered it, there was water at the bottom, like
Okay.
the bottom of the pot. When I watered it, it settled down there. So I was like, oh, maybe it over.
Yeah. I mean, it could be if let's say there was mold, right? At the base, like in the mix, and then you had moved it. It could be that it was already experiencing some level of root rot. That's very possible.
Okay.
So it was already kind of starting to show, like have get infected by the fungus.
Yeah.
That's one possibility, that it could already have been, because what happens is with the root rot, if the fungus is the type, because there's beneficial fungi, and then there's the ones that will actually break down the plant. If there's like a wound because the plant started to decay, it actually gets into the tissue and then it gets into the core, into the pith.
Yeah.
And so then it starts to rot the plant from the inside out. So that can happen with root rot. It could just be also the whole stress of the transplant, and it's still kind of figuring itself out. I would say even though it looks very dehydrated at this point, I would say to potentially let it just fully dry out before the next watering.
Mhm.
Just in case there is anything happening, to give it
Okay.
like a really nice dry environment. Because sometimes some plants, a section will start to rot, and it can still be saved. It's just,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean it's completely gone.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
These
would.
were these were with it. Like
Oh,
these guys.
pothos. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were surrounding the tree. So I like transplanted these out and they seem okay, but they also had that kind of fungus
Oh,
and,
okay.
and the roots aren't very long. So I'm surprised they're anything still alive because I think it was that root rot, like you're saying. It seems
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
yeah.
So then this is what I love is because it's like it's an investigative
Yeah,
process.
just grab this one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if it's root rot, that's what ends up happening. You end up you take your plant out and whole chunks of root are like gone. It's just
It's
only
very
have a
short.
little bit, very, very short. Uh,
Yes. Okay.
So sometimes if you buy these plants and they're already kind of pre-mixed like that, there's like the big plant with the vines.
Mhm.
Sometimes at the shops, like if you're buying it from like Lowe's or Home Depot, they
Yeah.
tend to overwater their plants.
Mm.
So root rot is very, very prevalent for these larger plants like the palms and things like that.
Yeah.
You get them and you're really excited, and it hasn't even been 2 days and you're starting to notice that the plant is like gelatinous at the base. And it
Mhm.
was nothing to do with you. It was that they had been overwatering it.
Okay.
So yeah, with the pothos, I mean, it looks great. So now you have
Yeah, they're still going. I have two pots of them actually. So I
that's
was trying to
great.
save everybody. But yeah, so
No,
that's good.
they're really, they're great. And they'll root very readily. So there's something you can very much save from root rot. They'll you'll at least be able to save part of the plant. So with the mass cane, I would say just wait for it to fully dry out and then kind of
Mhm.
take another look and see how it's doing.
Okay.
But it could just be still the shock. Maybe it's just recovering. It had root rot and now it's focusing on reestablishing its roots. And again,
Mhm.
during that time, it's not at the capacity, it's not working like they used to. So they're not taking in as much moisture. And so then this
Okay.
is what can be shown where the plant might look a little bit more shriveled.
Yeah.
The leaves kind of feel a lot thinner. And it's because they're
Mhm.
losing what is called turgidity, which is basically the water plumps them up, kind of like a
Mhm.
balloon. And so it really kind of plumps them up. And when they're dehydrated, everything kind of shrivels and thins out. Um, so it could just be that hopefully, hopefully it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, the stress of the change and it's still reestablishing itself. Now, if you see that the yellowing continues and now like you're losing leaves and things like that,
Mhm.
then you might have to check. What you could do is if you have like something very sharp, like a razor blade or something like that at the base, you can scratch away. Make sure it's
Mhm.
disinfected with rubbing alcohol because you don't want to accidentally introduce a pathogen.
Mhm.
But something like a razor blade or a box cutter, and you just want to take off like one layer. You don't want to you don't want to like go in deep, but you can
Okay.
actually see kind of scraping in a little spot, and you can see if it's brown or if it's green,
Oh,
and that's a good indicator if there's something going on in the tissues
that's
um,
of the like the tree kind
of
of
the tree itself.
the
Yeah,
base. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
as close to the
interesting.
base as you can get. You kind of do a little
Yeah.
scratch test. It's called the
Yeah.
scratch test. And
Oh.
so you can kind of scratch and see if you see anything weird. Um, if there's any odd coloring, if you see like a beige, not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes that's just
Mhm.
they have more of that like woody type of tissue, and they're still fine. But if you see it like black or like a dark brown, then that means that
Mhm.
area is actively rotting.
Oh, because it's very dark brown. Like I see little parts under the exterior and it's very dark. So I don't
Well,
know
yeah, I
exactly.
mean, you would just have
You
to
have to
see.
go in.
Yeah, you have to go in.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Okay.
and then yeah, and then if that's the case, or if you feel like when you squeeze it, you're kind of going in,
Give. Mhm.
that's when, yeah, there's like a little give there. That could mean that there's rot as well. But again,
Okay.
as Linda mentioned earlier in her question, with dracaenas, you can chop and prop. So um, it's unfortunate because you're kind of restarting over. But you
Mhm.
can do that. You can chop above the rock,
Oh.
let it kind of with the leaves, that whole section, and you kind of let it dry for a couple of days. It creates a scab. It's called a callus, and then
Oh.
restart. But then you
Okay.
lose, all that other growth. But if it was rotted, I mean, it's like a
Mhm.
last ditch effort, but you can do that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
I really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Happy to help.
Thanks.
Regina, is the white stuff salts from fertilizer, etc.? Good question. It could be a couple of things. What's the white stuff that we see in our soil? So, one, it could be that residue from our water too, if you're using tap water, for instance. But that looks much more crusty, and it's a white. I don't think I have any. I'm gonna see if I don't know if I don't think I have any that have that. Um, but it looks more of like a film, like a crusty film, and you would see it on the edges of your pot. You would see like the white is kind of on the edges as well of your pot on the inside. So for instance, let me grab this guy. So you would see the white like on the edges of the inside of your pot as well. That is a good indicator that what you're seeing, that white stuff, is salts, basically salt accumulation. That's a good one. Then there is the little pebbles. So sometimes folks ask, well, what are I'll keep using you as an example. So you'll see these white dots here, right, that move around that kind of look like styrofoam. That is perlite. So that is just to help with aeration. I get a lot of that questions. I've had people send me pictures like, what is this? And it's perlite. So you're fine. Another thing, now, if you see what looks very fuzzy and you can kind of actually move it, it looks like it's like mold growing around the plant. There are beneficial molds and there are molds that are going to actively destroy your plant. If it's gray, that's usually a bad one. If they're yellow, if it's like a yellow, that actually tends to be one of the beneficial ones that you don't tend to really worry about. You can scoop it up. You can use like a plastic spoon and just scoop it up, and clear that layer away if you'd like. But they're not really going to harm your plant. With the white molds is where it gets very confusing, because there are beneficial white molds that you might see them on the area around the plant, and they're fine. They're eating what's in the mix. They're not worried about your plant. They do not want living tissues, so they could care less. However, if you start to see white mold that is now hitting your plant and is getting on your plant, and you see it on your stems, on your leaves, that means it's actively eating your plant. So then that's where you have to worry. That is not a good mold. That is not a good mold. If it's on the plant itself and you're starting to see like your stem is getting covered, and that means your plant is actively decaying, and it's not the mold's fault. So I always tell folks, because then it's not the mold's fault. The mold is just doing its job. It's a decomposer. So that means that tissue was already dying or close to dying really before the mold was able to get there and start to enjoy a feast, right? So more than likely the plant was already dying of root rot, so it was already losing chunks of itself. And then the decomposers just came in and, hey, there's food here. So yeah, they don't usually, I mean, there are molds, of course, that can infect healthy tissue, but it's very rare. It's more often than not, it's the tissue was already decaying, and then the mold just jumped on it, took the opportunity, basically. So yeah, so if the mold is on the plant itself, on the stem, then you have to worry. Oops, dropped my phone. Then you have to worry. Can you save the plant? It depends. If the plant can be cut in, like propagated by cuttings, and you have nodes that are still intact, right, that are fine, then yeah, you can cut away all the healthy tissue, kind of start over and just throw out all the rotten tissue. But not all plants can be propagated by cuttings. So yeah, but those are the white stuff you can usually see in your soil mix. Kind of a rough a rough outline as to what can the white stuff be. Oh yeah, and then Kristen was saying, yeah, that my soil had the white gray mold near the roots. Yeah, so then that is indeed that indicator that there was root rot in progress, right? Because again, the mold is just taking advantage. It's just like there's food here, and yeah, so it just means that the situation, right, the environment was very welcoming. It's the same when I've had plants too, where when I started getting into using display pots, if I didn't size it appropriately, right, if I put let's say a relatively small plant like this, that's whoops, let's see here. If I put this plant in a display pot and the display pot kind of covers the brunt of it, now this area is all in darkness, right? And let's say I put it in a cooler room, a room that maybe I have AC on, but I keep the humidity up. So now I'm creating a cool, humid, dark environment, and the mold is like, hey, party time, and it'll more than likely start to colonize the base of this plant, right? Because I'm just kind of setting the stage up. So sometimes it's just tweaking environmental factors and things like that. Now, as I said, with the beneficial mushrooms and stuff, sometimes mushrooms, if you have, especially for plants that have a lot of orchid bark in them, the mushrooms are just eating the orchid bark. They're just breaking down the wood. They are not interested in your plant. They are just working on that. And sometimes it's a good sign that you actually have really healthy soil, like a healthy potting mix. But yeah, it it can be scary if you see like a mushroom popping out in your plant. But a good sign is if you do see a mushroom, though, those more often than not, I think 99%, that is a mushroom that is not going to be messing with your plant in the slightest. It's the molds that tend to be a little bit more, gotta figure that out, if it's good or bad. Hank, how can I know if a ficus which lost all its leaves will come back, or should I trash it? Good question, Hank. Yes, with the scratch test. Do the scratch test. So take like a razor blade or a box cutter, something that's really sharp, and just find, you can test multiple areas on the stem, maybe two to three at the most. And we're talking about a very tiny little scratch. You're not defacing the plant. It's a very, very small wound that you're creating, essentially, to just peel one layer off, to try to see if you can see green. And if you can see green, that means that the stem is still alive, that it's still alive and it's still going to give you growth. And because this can happen, ficus do this, they will defoliate, they will lose all of their leaves, and then they will bounce back. So this can happen, especially after like a spider mite infestation. If you moved, you know, and you have the plant in a new location, that can cause it to get stressed and then drop all its leaves, and then put out new ones. So definitely don't give up. I would recommend doing the scratch test. Just make sure, everyone, if you are doing the scratch test, anytime you use anything to cut your plant, peel your plant, always spray it with rubbing alcohol before and after, just so that, you know, just in case. You don't want anything growing on your scissors. But yeah, just to disinfect it. Just, you don't want to spread you know, a pathogen across your plants like that.
Should I?
Oh
Yeah, no. Should I fertilize the plant too?
yeah. Not if there's no leaves. I wouldn't.
There's no leaves. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend because it can't. It's not in that state of active growth. That's when you would want to fertilize it. When like it's during the growing season, it's putting out a lot of growth and it needs that extra energy. Right now, it sounds, if it has no leaves, it's just gearing up to start putting out leaves.
Okay.
And so sometimes adding those fertilizers might actually could burn the roots. It could just yeah, I would say just wait until it's actively growing, and then you can add add the fertilizer.
Okay. And how much should I water it?
When it has no leaves,
Yeah.
so you would want to water it definitely with ficus. I mean, you want to let it somewhat dry out. Is it a fiddle leaf fig or is it like a Benjamina?
It's more like a Benjamina. Yeah.
Benjamina. So I would say just once you feel that it's almost completely dry, but it's just you're going to lower the amount that you're watering. So you can keep the frequency, but just the amount. So instead of a
Okay.
full saturating soak,
Yeah.
you want to just kind of give it just enough. You can pour a little bit of water just around the edge, just so that it's getting some moisture, but not fully saturated, because it doesn't have the leaves to actively help with using all that water. So
Okay.
it would rot
Okay.
otherwise.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome. And yeah, and folks, you know, if you have plants like that end up losing all their leaves, don't immediately you know, throw them in the trash. You never know. A lot of plants will bounce back. Plants that also can go into dormancy. So plants like alocasias, you know, caladiums. These are plants that will die back and actually go into a corm. It's like a bulb. Things like oxalis, like the shamrocks, they will also do that too. So just because the leaves die, you know, if that plant has a rhizome, has some type of storage organ, basically, they will come back. If it's a woody plant, it's a tree, sometimes they can come back. Now, it's certain things that if they completely are rotted out, it's like a foliage plant. There's no area where the plant could have tucked some, you know, squirreled away some energy for itself, right? And it's just it's completely rotted out, then you know it's a lost cause. But if there's still a chunk left, sometimes they will come back. And this even with succulents as well. So even like jade plants, right? Let's say the top part of your jade plant just died, but the base, even though it looks like the base of like a broccoli stem, right? It's like, what is this? It might still come back. It will. Sometimes they will start to put out growth again, and you'll have more, you know, more baby plants as well. Sometimes they will put out pups too. So sometimes they're not a lost cause. So definitely try. Definitely try. And oh, and just so while I wait for the next question, I had mentioned with my El Chaco red philodendron, my gorgeous El Chaco red, it was green and beautiful before I went to El Salvador. And when I arrived, that was literally the first thing I attended to when I walked in the door. I literally opened the door and I saw it was turning yellow and I freaked out. And so I had to, 2 of its leaves already went brown completely and got cut back. And now it has 1 leaf left, but it's putting out 2 new leaves. So this was the one that I had been treating for thrips. And I think those leaves just finally said, all right, bye. And now it's coming out with new leaves. So I'll just show you. Here we go. So this is the remaining leaf, and I'm just letting it stay and curl up just so that the plant itself could take up any remaining resources from this leaf. So it had 3 giant leaves like this, and I had to, so 1 got cut here and 1 got cut here, but now it's coming out with this huge leaf. So that'll be out probably within the next 2 or 3 days. I'm going to have a huge new leaf, and it is starting to come out with yet another one. So it's not gone, but it hurt. It definitely hurt to come home and see your beautiful, because this is the biggest plant I have. Well, my tallest plant is my my Camiadora, my bamboo palm. But this is like the biggest in terms of leaves. And I was very sad coming home to this thing completely yellow. But it looks like it's just giving way to new growth. So yeah, it's just, it was sad to lose these leaves, but hopefully, I mean, it's good sign, 2 new gorgeous leaves, no sign of thrips. So I think it was just those leaves were damaged. They did have damage from the thrift infestation. They had like little dots, little spots all over them that were left after the infestation. So I guess the plant was just, let's drop these affected leaves that maybe aren't working as well as they could, and let's just put out new leaves and start over. So I think that's what it was trying to do there. But I'm excited. You can really see the red. So it's the El Chaco red. So the back of the leaves have this really beautiful, beautiful rosy color. Then when it matures, it turns green again, but a little bit of that pink. They're absolutely beautiful though. So I'm hopefully it'll be open by next class. So I'll be able to show you. But yeah, that was not fun coming home to that. So that was literally, I literally dropped my luggage and I was like, oh my God. That was literally the first thing I did was run to my plant. Yeah, it was very, very, very sad. Let me see here. All right. Yeah, I think those were all the plants that I got. Brian got a bunch of philodendrons. He got 1 anthurium. He got a huge Jose Bueno philodendron, and he got what did he get? He got a white wizard. He got a pink princess, another one. He got a white wizard and a ring of fire. And what else did he get? I think it's his 2nd ring of fire now. Oh, and actually there's this one that I did just remembered because I put it on the shelf back here. Here we go. I totally forgot about you two until right now as I was discussing this. And this is a hybrid This is a philodendron summer glory. It's a mix between a gloriosum and a Macaulay finale. I had them in a bag, and now Mozart is deciding to play with that bag. But this is that hybrid right here. And then I picked up this Scindapsus. So I was told this was a regular Truby Scindapsus. And you can see that the leaves look very much like a Truby. They're a little damaged, not too bad, right? But the new growth is coming in variegated. And they didn't really know. The guy still sold it to me at regular price. So I don't know. Let's find, I forgot I have to take pictures and post these up to like a forum because all the new growth is coming in variegated. It kind of looks like a Gisenia, kind of that kind of variegation. But all the top growth is green, and then all the new growth is coming in with this really interesting variegation. So we'll find out. I'll let you guys know what I can find. Hopefully I found a really cool variegated Scindapsus, but I don't know yet. Mozart, come here. What are you doing? He's just at the bag, smacking it right now. let me put these guys over there so then I can stop him from the mayhem. Yeah, can't do that. All right. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm finding, so it's because I have an area on my bookshelf where I put all my quarantine plants. So I was like, which plants did I just get? But this, I have a cutting in my greenhouse, which is a smaller cutting, but they had these. So I had to grab one of these. This is a Syngonium, John O'Carty Road. Really beautiful on the back, this really gorgeous burgundy. And so they were selling them for $10. So I had gotten my little one for $10. So I saw this one much larger. So I decided I'm gonna grab this one too. I do tend to do that if I find a bigger version of a plant that I currently have, but at a really reduced price. I do end up getting them. Doug, variegated refers to the color of the leaves only, or are they the shape of the leaves? Good question. So variegation can occur on the leaves or the stem, and it's regarding the color. So it's not the shape, but rather the color of the plant. So and there's different types of variegation. There's several different types. There are things like blister variegation, which is very common in plants like begonias, and I believe Scindapsus is another example of blister variegation. And that's basically air bubbles that are in between the layers of the plant's skin, right, of the leaf layers. That can cause that, and it's actually reflective. It's a lot of the ones that look very glittery. It almost looks like the leaf is glittering. That's usually an example of a blister variegation. Then there's different types of variegation, like the pattern variegation, where it only happens on the edges. And then this can be replicated, right? And then this becomes a new kind of variety of plant, and it always gets that variegation right on the edges. Then there's examples of what is also stable variegation and unstable variegation. So stable variegation means that it always occurs. So let's say like with this plant here, every time you do cuttings and things like that, for the most part, it's pretty stable. This is how it grows. When you get new growth, it stays like that. You keep getting it's like tried and true. But then with unstable variegation, that usually means it's it's like a brand new random type of mutation that happened to that plant, and it's unstable. So it's not, doesn't mean that every time you make cuttings of that plant, it's going to stay like that. It might, just as quickly as the mutation happened, it might disappear. So what happens is, like with that Scindapsus I was just showing, where the top of it is green, and then starting at a certain point, the leaves start to become variegated. So that section is known as a sport. So this means somewhere down the line of this plant, a section of it basically became mutated. Something happened with the cells, it became mutated, it started showing this kind of lack of chlorophyll, basically, because that's all with all the white. And so what people do is, this is how varieties are created. So you find a sport and you're like, whoa, that's super cool. I want to isolate that. So then you actually isolate that from the plant, so that now it doesn't have any of that normal coloring, the cells of normal coloring still there. You isolate it into its own plant. And so now you keep getting mutated tissue. Now you won't know after a while if it's going to be, end up being very stable variegation. It's always going to be like that. Or if it's just like this one-time thing, and then as soon as you isolate it and it starts growing, you're noticing that now your cuttings are turning green again, right? But yeah, so there's different types of variegation. It's very fun. With the plants that end up having stable variegation, this is something that can also be passed on to future generations via seed. Unstable variegation is usually a mutation in the tissues, so it's not something you usually can kind of get seeds for. So if you see seeds that are saying, oh, this is for like an Albo monstera, or something that is unstable type of variegation, then definitely don't believe them. Those seeds are usually a lie, because there's no way. Since it's unstable, it's unpredictable. So you can't, yeah. Oh, Cheryl, tell me how to take care of the of the Cardi road. Mine is much more condensed. I have a Cardi about 6 feet from a west window. All right, awesome. Yes, but I have lost leaves and they have been replaced, so no progress. Okay. Yes, with John O'Carty roads, what I have noticed, so I also have mine away from a western window, so same location. These guys, when I put them there, this would be about 4 feet. Yeah, like about 4 feet away from the western window. So this one's still in quarantine, but it will go with my other one. And I noticed that when I didn't have my cutting in the cabinet, it was drying out way too quickly. But once I actually put it into my grow cabinet. I have it's like a two layer grow cabinet. And that one, now it's doing really, really well. So I think it needs a little bit more humidity than like my other Syngoniums need. So I have noticed that. The light situation, it seems to be very happy with that light situation, except it seemed to have needed that extra oomph of humidity. So right now, our humidity here in the living room is at 70%. So, they're fine right now, because that's what it's about in the cabinets, like at 70-80% in there. But yeah, so I think you just need to up the humidity, because they will start to lose leaves if the humidity is kind of off, because that's what was happening to me when I had it out of the cabinet. But in terms of watering, I did notice as soon as you see that they're drying out, give them a good bottom water. I noticed that they seem to be a little bit more thirsty than my, I have some Albo Syngoniums, and those like to dry out before I water them. These don't. So the cutting, I mean, especially it's a cutting, so it's tiny. So it tends to dry out much faster, but I've just noticed that I'm watering that one much more often than I'm watering my other syngoniums. But yeah, so probably try to see if you can up the humidity around it. That might be something. So it could be as easy as maybe getting like a cloche or a little greenhouse for it, like a little teeny tiny one where it just fits in there. That could be something, or adding like a little humidifier. For little areas that I have where I just want a little bit of humidity, I have like a tiny cactus humidifier. And I have several of them that I buy and I put around like little areas. So sometimes you can give them, like, your plant its own little humidifier, and that might be helpful. But yeah. Okay, it's 1:02. I do have to hop off. Brenda, oh, thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, this was fun. I hope that this was helpful. I really wanted to share these.
Hey, Jocelyn, did you ever publish that list of supplies? I want those little humidifiers.
Oh, yes, I did. Let me quickly pull that up. Let me put that in the chat. 1 second. I did create a Amazon wish list. So if you are, let me see, let me just look that up. Amazon wish list. There it is. Okay. I will add that on there. I actually don't think I added that there, so I will put that on there. But then
Yes.
this is the list. I'm going to put the link here. If you have anything you want to add to the list that you highly recommend, let me know. You can send it my way, and then I can add it to the list. But this is that list for the humidifiers. It was the humidifier cactus. 1 second. Yes, this is the one that I got. Let me put that in the chat. So this is the one I got. Yeah, so that's specifically the one that I got. They come, it looks like some of them come that they themselves and some of them light up and some of them don't light up. So I think you have to kind of choose that preference, but they're great. They're nifty. So I have them. I have actually one in my cabinet that I use in it, and it humidifies the entire cabinet. So it's pretty strong for a little thing. You're very welcome. I hope that's helpful. Definitely reach out. Let me know if you need any help finding that list again, anything like that. Someone had asked for the email address. Again, I will put that into the chat. Here we go. So info@urbangarden.eco, and urban being spelled HERBAN, urbangarden.eco, ECO. So info@urbangarden.eco. So feel free to reach out there. I hope this was fun. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, everyone. Have a great week. Please stay safe. And I hope I'll see you next week. And if any of you want to share next week, you want to take a few minutes or however long, just let me know. We can set that up. And if you want to share your collection or anything like that, a topic of your liking about plants, let me know. All right. Have a great one, everyone. Please stay safe. Bye for now.